Hey, good day, everybody. Still here for the Daily Market Pulse on this Monday, February 10th, 2014. Well, pretty quiet today over the most part, but everything did finish on the upside. It started off down, the markets opened, and then they eventually finished up, but barely, and also on very light volume. So, with that, you can see from the Dow Jones, Doji essentially finished essentially flat up, if anything. So, it's a Doji up here at the 38.2 retracement. Still room to the 50% if it so chooses to do so. That would match the 20-day moving average. That would match the high of the bear sash from several days ago. But this is where it gets kind of interesting. Does it end here or does it blow through? This becomes important. Let's look at the S&P. Interestingly, here the S&P has actually gone through the 50% already, but into the moving averages, the 20 and the 50. This had a dead cross. Remember the 20 below the 50 a couple days ago. So potential resistance right here. There's also the pivot area across 1805 to 1815. You see those gold lines. And then you got moving averages as mentioned, and then but right down below you've got the 8 moving average, including the rising window. So it's a little bit jammed here in terms of resistance support. So it's going to be what's the next move? Nasdaq we've known already for a long time. It's always been kind of leading everything and not near as weak. The 20 is still well above the 50, but it is declining. The 50 is still rising. So we had a rising window on Friday. We had this actually come up and through and close not only through the 50% on Friday, but now through the 20-day moving average as well, with some room still to 41.85-ish, where the previous high was, or at least one of the previous highs from before, back in December. With plenty of room still to 42.50. If it starts to fail from here, then of course you're coming back to the window at 40.75. Okay, TSX went through nicely on Friday, closed above the 20-day moving average, and then now today went higher, but then faded. It started off with a great, really good day, and then faded quite a bit. So consecutive days to the upside. At some point, it's got to take a breather. Possible it comes back and just tests the 20-day moving average and waits for the 8 moving average to catch up. Room obviously to 14,000 still. The DAX may have reached maybe some resistance, at least temporarily. A spinning top Friday, and then today into the 50-day moving average and paused, so it's holding still. That might be a precursor warning of what the markets might do tomorrow. It's possible. As for the US dollar Canadian dollar, we can see the retrace. We can see essentially the pullback profit taking ability here. Bullish piercing occurred at 110. This might be the start where this starts to rise once again. Let's look at the euro. Euro bounced nicely off the 135 area, bottom of the channel, coming back up toward the 50, including even as high as 137. That's kind of what you're still going to be looking for on the potential upside. Treasury sideways after a big day on Friday, that volatile day, just kind of went sideways. Price held pretty much right there. It's in check. So we talked about it might just consolidate here, go sideways, looking for a bounce potentially to go back higher. This still looks like it could certainly go higher from here, which means markets are likely to go lower. The question is if they do, how far, how fast, and when. Japanese yen similar to the treasuries, I think, in terms of consolidation back to the moving averages. A golden cross 20 over the 50. 50 still declining, almost flat now at this point. Let's see where it goes. Gold finally looking like it may be coming back to life. There's still that bearish engulfing high from back on the 27th. That could still be a resistance or act as a resistance because that whole 1280 area. So it still needs to get over and close reasonably well over 1280 before it has a chance to remain more bullish. Pardon me. So far so good, at least in terms of its pattern. Is it going to go long or not? Silver coming off its lows, $19, and now heading up back toward 2050 once again. Seems to be doing reasonably well, just like gold. It still has a shot to get to that point. Crude kind of neutral. It opened a little higher, faded, came off the 200, came all the way back, made a new high, and then essentially finished with a doji. So 101 and 99, of course, was one of the resistance. It blew through that on Friday. Now it's up to the 101 area. That's currently right now matching pretty close to that pivot area we saw back at the end of December. That's what it's playing with now. The moving averages are much stronger than they were then. 8 on top, 20 about to cross over, 50 still rising. Back then, the 50 was still declining. So definitely a different picture and a better opportunity possibility for this to come through 101 into 103. Interestingly, natural gas, after tapping 550 essentially and 560 twice, 550 for sure, has faded substantially back to the original breakout area at 450. Looking for a bounce there as the 50-day moving average will coincide. Small caps back to essentially a similar polarity, or at least a kind of a pivot area. There's a series of lows. Remember that whole week, 5 days, we went sideways last week before the breakdown. And this has come back to that area. It's not near as strong as what we're seeing in the indexes, which I find interesting. Like the Nasdaq's way, way higher than small caps. The 20 is still declining, about to give you a possible dead cross here. So it's a little suspicious here in terms of how strong this market really is. And the VIX, after falling fairly hard on Friday into the moving averages, there's still support right across here. Did not make a new low today. Held above 15. Kind of assumed it might support in this area, at least a little bit of a bounce, just based on the fact that the 20 was rising, the 50 was rising, about to cross over the 200. 200 was there as well. An old window was there as well. So expected there might be some kind of a bounce, not to mention a fairly large collapse, and it's oversold all the while. A little bit of a quieting. That last candle from today there, that just kind of tells you maybe the selling on the VIX has slowed down and possibly come to a halt. We'll see how that goes. Tomorrow, big day with Yellen speaking. It's all going to probably stand. That's going to be the trigger, or the catalyst probably for tomorrow in terms of direction.